Los Angeles. The mid-1980s, the city of sunshine and glamour was suddenly gripped by terror. Families locked their doors, neighborhoods formed night patrols, and the sound of every creak or knock filled people with fear. The reason was one man, a shadow who broke into homes at night, attacking at random, leaving behind only death and chaos. The press called him the Night Stalker, but his real name was Richard Ramirez, and the story of how an ordinary man became a symbol of fear is one of the darkest chapters in American history. Richard Ramirez was born on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas. He was the youngest of 5 children in a family that often struggled with poverty and violence. His father, Julian Ramirez, was a strict man with a quick temper. At home, anger and punishment were common. Richard suffered multiple head injuries as a child, once from a falling dresser, another time when he was knocked unconscious by a swing. These injuries, combined with a troubled household, shaped him from an early age. As a teenager, he spent time with his cousin Miguel, a Vietnam veteran who told disturbing stories of war. Instead of being shocked, Richard was fascinated. He began smoking marijuana, skipping school, and stealing from local stores. His fascination with crime and darkness grew stronger every year. By his late teens, Ramirez was already in trouble with the law. He was arrested for petty theft and soon escalated to burglary. Unlike others his age, he had no interest in school or work. He drifted through life, often sleeping in abandoned buildings, stealing what he needed. In 1981, he moved to California, hoping for a fresh start. But instead of finding stability, he dove deeper into drugs and crime. Cocaine addiction became part of his daily life. And soon his burglaries turned into something far more violent. In 1984, Los Angeles police began investigating a series of disturbing attacks. The cases seemed unrelated at first. Different neighborhoods, different methods, different victims, but behind them all was Richard Ramirez. He would enter homes late at night, sometimes through unlocked doors, other times by climbing through open windows. His victims were chosen at random, men, women, the elderly. There was no clear pattern, which made him especially terrifying. Some were shot, others stabbed, and some strangled. The unpredictability of his crimes created an atmosphere of chaos. Unlike other killers who followed a specific ritual, Ramirez could strike anywhere, at any time, in any way. By the summer of 1985, the Night Stalker dominated the headlines. Los Angeles had become a city under siege. Families added extra locks to their doors and nailed their windows shut. Sales of guns and guard dogs skyrocketed. Neighborhood watch groups patrolled the streets at night, trying to protect their communities. Local news reported on every new crime, often in graphic detail. People slept with lights on. Some even stayed awake all night, too afraid to close their eyes. What made the fear even worse was strange. Symbols Ramirez, left behind at certain crime scenes. The media connected them with satanic rituals, fueling rumors that the killer wasn't just a criminal, but something darker. This mix of crime and mystery turned the Night Stalker into a living nightmare. Detectives worked around the clock, but Ramirez was difficult to catch. He traveled across the city, leaving little evidence behind. His crimes ranged from wealthy suburbs to working-class neighborhoods. Eventually, investigators connected the murders by a few small details. A pair of rare sneakers left footprints at several scenes. Bullets from the same gun were found in different victims. And survivors described a tall, thin man with dark hair and bad teeth. Still, the case dragged on. The public grew more anxious, demanding answers. Police press conferences were held almost daily, but the killer remained free. Behind the scenes, detectives finally pieced together enough evidence to identify Richard Ramirez. A stolen car linked to him was discovered, and fingerprints confirmed the match. On August 30th, 1985, police released a mugshot of Richard Ramirez to the public. His face appeared on newspapers, on television, and across the city. The very next day, Ramirez walked into a convenience store in East Los Angeles. Several customers recognized him immediately from the front page of the paper. Realizing he had been spotted, Ramirez panicked and tried to steal a car to escape. But this time the community fought back. Neighbors chased him through the streets. A crowd surrounded him, shouting and throwing objects. When he was finally caught, several citizens held him down until police arrived. The reign of the Night Stalker was over, not by detectives, but by ordinary people who refused to let him escape. Richard Ramirez's trial began in 1988 and quickly became one of the most publicized cases of the decade. In the courtroom, he showed little remorse. Sometimes he smiled, sometimes he laughed, and at times he even mocked the families of his victims. The trial lasted over a year, with dozens of witnesses and mountains of evidence. Journalists filled the courtroom, reporting every detail. Outside, crowds gathered daily, some demanding justice, others bizarrely fascinated by Ramirez. In 1989, the verdict was delivered. Ramirez was convicted of 13 murders, along with multiple counts of attempted murder, burglary, and assault. He was sentenced to death. When asked for his reaction, Ramirez replied coldly, "Big deal. Death always comes with the territory." Ramirez was sent to San Quentin State Prison, where he remained for the rest of his life. Even behind bars, he attracted attention. Some people, disturbingly, and sent him letters. And a few women even offered to marry him. To them, he was a dark celebrity. The press made him infamous, and for a time the world could not look away. But when the cameras were gone and the trial was over, Richard Ramirez's life became something very different. In prison, Ramirez lived in isolation. Locked away in San Quentin on death row, he spent his days in a small concrete cell. There was no spotlight, no courtroom drama, only silence and the passing of years. The man who once terrorized Los Angeles became just another inmate waiting. Years turned into decades. His lawyers filed appeal after appeal, but each one was denied. The death penalty always loomed over him, but it was a punishment that seemed endlessly delayed. Still, Ramirez showed no remorse. In rare interviews, he spoke coldly about death, as if it meant nothing to him. In June 2013, before his execution could be carried out, Richard Ramirez died in prison from complications related to cancer. He was 53 years old. The disease claimed him quietly, after nearly 3 decades on death row. His death closed the final chapter on one of the most infamous criminals in American history. And though he escaped the execution chamber, he never escaped the prison of his own legacy. The story of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, is not just about one man. It is the story of a city gripped by fear, of families who felt unsafe in their own homes, and of a police force under immense pressure to stop him. For months in 1985, Los Angeles was transformed. People locked their windows, slept with the lights on, and bought extra locks and guard dogs. No one felt safe, not in their neighborhoods, not even in their own beds. The city became a place where every sound in the night carried suspicion, and every shadow could be danger. The memory of that fear lasted long after Ramirez was captured. Even today, decades later, the Night Stalker is remembered as a symbol of how fragile safety can be. He remains a chilling reminder of how one person's actions can alter the lives of thousands. A reminder that evil can wear many faces, sometimes a stranger in the dark, sometimes the neighbor you never suspected. And though Richard Ramirez is gone, the shadow he cast still lingers in Los Angeles. His crimes scarred an entire generation, and his name is etched forever in the history of American crime, a dark echo that time cannot erase.